Hi everyone, and welcome back for another Helms Academy Writing Club recap. Today we'll be recapping the Writing Club from May 5th, 2020, and the lesson that day was on using transitions. Let's get started. So our lead-in question for today is, what happens if we don't use transitions from one idea to the next in our writing? And that's a big question. I mean, what does writing look like without transitions? Some of the things we brought up were that it's very choppy. There's no smoothness between ideas. And so that's what we're using transitions for, is to help us to navigate from one idea to the next in our writing. So today we're going to talk about a couple of different types of transitions. We're going to focus on time-focused transitions, addition transitions, contrast transitions, and emphasis transitions. So our first type of transition is the time transition. And you'll see a lot of examples of different ways we can indicate time here. We're thinking about things that are time sensitive or that have a process and a certain order of steps to them. So think of words like first, second, and third, right? It shows a clear order as to how things happen. We might think of finally as we're getting to the last step of something. Or we might use words like before or following, at this or that time, next, then, or while to show some sort of time relationship. Let's look at an example. This first example is a classic example of baking. Now, anytime you're baking or following a recipe, you have to follow the instructions from beginning to end. So take a look at this. It says, blank, combine the dry ingredients in the bowl. Then add the wet ingredients. So if we're thinking about the order in which we would do these things, one of those things comes before the other. So we might say something like, first, combine the dry ingredients in the bowl, then add the wet ingredients. Let's take a look at another example, following on our cake theme here. You'll see on here, blank, combining the wet ingredients, you should preheat the oven. Now this one has a couple of specific words we might use, and if you had something like this where it has the list of different options and then you could fill in the blank, what you might do is just read them out loud. So some of the ones that could work here grammatically and to make sense of our time transitions would be, before combining the wet ingredients, you should preheat the oven. Or following combining the wet ingredients, you should preheat the oven. Or while combining the wet ingredients, you should preheat the oven. Now to put that in perspective, we wouldn't use something like first combining the wet ingredients, you should preheat the oven. The way that the grammar structure is set up, we would have to use one of the words like before, following, or while that indicate the time. Let's take a look at a third example here. It says, once you take the cake out of the oven, allow it to cool. Blank, serve, slices, and eat. All right, so if we think logically about this, when we're serving the slices and eating the cake, what part of the process are we in? Well, that's probably the end, right? So we might say, once you take the cake out of the oven, allow it to cool. Finally, serve, slices, and eat. So let's move on to our second type of transitions. We're looking at addition transitions. So the most obvious ones that you might hear are in addition or additionally, but you could also hear also, moreover, and furthermore. Let's take a look at an example. Here it says, I like to watch baseball on TV. Blank, I enjoy an occasional live game. So here we have our options below, and in reality, we could use all of these options. We could say, in addition, I enjoy an occasional live game. Additionally, I enjoy an occasional live game. Also, I enjoy. Moreover, I enjoy. Furthermore, I enjoy. All of these make sense in this context. So if there's one transition that you use a lot from this list, consider practicing with another one. When you get used to some new vocabulary, it broadens your ability to write in new ways. Let's take a look at another example. This one says, my favorite team is the Phillies, but I blank love the Reds and Orioles. So this is another specific one because we have this blank that's in between our subject I and our verb love. So here we would use the word also. It's a transition that's built into the middle of the sentence. Let's take a look at our final example for this section. It says, Steve says food at the stadium is delicious. Blank, he says he will buy us all hot dogs. Again, in this situation, we could use any of these words. In addition, additionally, also, moreover, furthermore, they all fit well in this blank. Our next section talks about contrast. So some examples you might see of words that express contrast are in contrast, on the other hand, alternatively, despite, conversely, and nevertheless or nonetheless. Contrast shows some sort of difference. For our first example, it says, Miss Rose enjoys sleeping at night. Blank, the raccoon in her yard does not. So here we could use a number of different options. We could say, in contrast, the raccoon in her yard does not. On the other hand, the raccoon in her yard does not. We could use alternatively or conversely. Any of these would work. For another example, we see blank Jessica's hard work, the weeds in the garden came back. Now for this one, we're looking for a specific word from the list, and the word is despite. So we would say, despite Jessica's hard work, the weeds in the garden came back. Now with the word despite, we use it in conjunction with an idea or a thing, a noun. So we could say, despite the cost of tickets, Steve still went to the game. Or, despite that the beaches were crowded, Jeff still went to the beach. For a third example, you can see it says, the computer was having technical difficulties. Blank, Jeff kept trying. Here we could use nevertheless or nonetheless. It's a way of expressing that even though it was difficult, Jeff continued. Our last list of transitions is for emphasis. We can use words like obviously, clearly, indeed, undoubtedly, it should be noted. All of these will help us to emphasize a point and to make it very clear what we mean. These are great words to be using in your persuasive writing. In our first example, it says, the summer months are the most beautiful. Blank, no other months compare. Now here we could say, obviously no other months compare, clearly, indeed, undoubtedly. All of those first four work well. This example says, blank that temperatures above 70 degrees make people more likely to go enjoy the outdoors. Now for this one, we're looking for a different construct. We see the word that at the beginning. So we want to add, it should be noted that temperatures above 70 degrees make people more likely to go enjoy the outdoors. Our second example says, the New Jersey shore is beautiful in the summer. Blank, this is the primary reason that summer is the best time of year. Here we could use one of our transitions like obviously, clearly, or indeed, or undoubtedly. Let's do a final round just to see what you learned today. Let's read the sentence. You can always call or email your coordinator for help. Alternatively, you can talk to your coordinator on Zoom. So, what's the transition in this sentence? That's right, it's alternatively. Now, taking a look at the options below, which kind of transition is it? It's contrast. Great job! Following your lesson today, don't forget to do the homework. Take a look at this. What's our transition word? Following is right. Now, which kind of transition is it? A time transition. Great. I know you'll finish your math quiz this week. Indeed, I bet you'll pass with a 90%. What's the transition in this sentence? Indeed. And which type of transition is it? Emphasis. Great job. Your hard work now is so important to your future success. Additionally, you're inspiring your fellow students. What's the transition word in this sentence? Additionally. And which type of transition is it? Addition, of course. So to try out your skills, you can use this task to give you some experience with using transitions. Write a story about something interesting that happened to you this past year. It could be anything, something simple or something grand, but use transitions to tell the story. If you're a Helms Academy student, you can send this story to your coordinator, and that person will give you some feedback on your skills and give you some ideas of how you can continue to improve your writing. Thanks so much for joining me for this Helms Academy Writing Club recap. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and at helmsacademy.org.